Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Tanzil. Today I will be conducting your lecture on sampling technique. Particularly, we will be focusing on probability sampling for the scope of this lecture. The learning objectives include explain the concept of sampling and significance in conducting epidemiological studies, why we need sample, why we do sampling, and then the major difference between the probability and non-probability sampling, as well as we will discuss the basic types of non-probability sampling. As we all know, objective of research or biostatistics is to make, describe, and develop inferences or conclusions about a population. So let us imagine that we are going to make studies to get the following information, such as what percentage of pregnant rural women who are willing to deliver at a healthcare facility. If you want to conduct such a study, so then you must need to know to whom you will include in your study. Of course, the pregnant women living in rural area of Pakistan. How will you decide who is going to be part of your study? There are maybe thousands or millions of pregnant women living in rural settings of Pakistan. So we need to really identify who is going to be part of the study and who is not, and how you will ensure that your results must reflect actual population. So when you are choosing the pregnant women living in rural areas of Pakistan, you must be sure that your sample, whoever is coming in your sample, is the true reflection of the population. Otherwise, the findings of your research will have no worth. Sampling is defined as the process of selecting a subset of observations or subgroup of population from the entire population of interest, so that the characteristics from the subset or the sample can be used to draw conclusions or statistical inferences about the entire population of interest. It's just like if we want to know the pregnant number of or percentage of pregnant women actually willing to deliver at facility in rural Pakistan. So we just the actual number can be in millions, and we cannot take practically. It is not possible to collect information and take the opinion from the millions of people living in Pakistan who are currently pregnant and living in rural areas. So, but it becomes very easy if we just take a subgroup, rightly selected people of subgroup from the same population, that is the pregnant women living in rural areas. This will reduce the cost or the financial burden on the project. It will reduce the field time spent to collect the information from the rural women, and if the sample is rightly selected, it will definitely increase the accuracy and improve the quality of the work. So this is how we do sampling. This is very important to understand few basic terminologies if we want to understand the sampling and how we do sampling. The first terminology is study population. The whole population of interest for your study is the sampling population. The sampling population is just like in the previous example was the pregnant women living in the rural areas of the country. Now, if you talk about the element, the element is the one individual in the study population, which is actually making your group of the population of interest. So one element, one person in your sample population is one element. So like one pregnant woman living in rural areas of Pakistan is one unit or one element. Sampling unit are the individuals or the households or anything like schools, any entity you are involved in sampling, which is the basic focus of sampling. So like in a study of pregnant rural women, the sampling unit is the woman who is pregnant and living in rural area. So the individual woman is your sampling unit. But if you are conducting a survey in an area and where you are looking for the percentage of households using clean water services, so what you can see in that scenario, the household is the number of houses. So each house is a sampling unit because you are doing sampling at the household level, not the individual level. So each household or each house or each family will be your sampling unit. Likewise, if we talk about the sampling frame is a list of all the sampling units. It can be the list of individuals, like the list of all the pregnant women living in rural areas of Pakistan is the sampling frame for that particular scenario we have been discussing throughout the presentation. While how list of households in a particular area can be sampling frame when your sampling unit is household, and if you are taking some information about the children 5 years of age, then all the children in that particular setting of 5 years of age will make your sampling frame. Before you do sampling, you have to go follow the certain sequence of steps. Number one, you need to know the population of concern. What is the right population to sample for your study project, or it depends on the study objectives, of course. Then you can just identify a sampling frame or a list of items or the events or the individuals or the sampling units which can be used to draw the sample. Where then you will choose a particular method of sampling which can be applied. There are many methods of sampling or types of sampling. So which type you are using, you will choose that. You will determine a specific sample size. It means you need to know how many individuals exactly do you need. Do you need 300 participants in your study? The sample size is 300. If it is 300 and you had 500, 250, how many individuals or the sampling units or the elements are required in your survey? And then you implement the plan according to the sampling type chosen by you. And then after sampling, you will after applying the sampling, you will collect the data with the help of that, and this is how you will be finally completing the whole procedure. This picture is very much self-explanatory. However, if you look from the left, what do you want to generalize to? So this is the one question which helps you identify the theoretical or the population of concern or the study population. While what population can you get access to defines exactly the population you will be targeting. How you can get access to them. This is the one thing, that whether you have a sampling frame or not. Many times you do not have a sampling frame, and when you do not have a sampling frame, then you have a limited choice of sampling and you may not be able to implement the probability sampling. So then it compromise your choice of sampling types. So you may apply certain types but not apply some other types of sampling. And who is in your study is the particularly individual unit or the element, whether you will be sampling for the children or the woman or the pregnant woman or any other woman or the man or the household level. What will be your sample? Who will be in your sample and how you will be doing it? So from the whole population, theoretical population, you will just choose your target population, and then just you access them, choose the method of going to the population by choosing the methodology, and then select. What happens when sampling technique is not applied properly or an improper sampling technique or procedure is conducted? When we do not choose a proper sampling strategy, or even if we choose a proper sampling strategy but we fail to implement it the way it should be, so it results in sampling error. Sampling error basically arises when there is error in the data collection by choosing the appropriate sample, and it is as a result of taking a sample from a population rather than using a whole population. So sampling error also affects the study findings and the study results. And sampling variation due to infinite variations, and it just affect the findings, and the results might be different from the actual or from the reality. And if just produce different results among the different samples from the same population, it may be only due to chance or the error, and it can be measured in probability samples like the standard error, but not measurable in non-probability samples. So basically sampling is divided into two major types: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is a type of sampling in which each element in the population has the equal chance of being chosen. Everyone is at risk of becoming part of sample. So anybody can be chosen or cannot be chosen, but everyone is at least at risk or chance of getting into this sample. But in non-probability sampling, it is a particular kind of sampling in which some elements have a chance to become part of example, but other elements or the other individuals in the community or in the same target population group never get a chance to become part of sample. It means some people are get the opportunity to be included in the study, but not all. This is non-probability sampling, when there is unequal chance to become part of the study sample. So the probability and non-probability sampling are again divided into various subtypes, and this is very crucial to understand each type and the difference between various types of probability as well as non-probability sampling. And for the scope of this lecture, in detail we will be discussing the non-probability sampling and its type. The other probability sampling types will be covered by Dr. Simon in their upcoming lecture. So the types of non-probability sampling are convenient sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. These are the major types. There are some other types which are not part of this lecture. For the scope of this lecture, we only focus on these most important and widely used types. So when to use non-probability sampling, it is very important to understand why and when we use non-probability sampling, while knowing that it does not provide equal chance to everyone to become part of the sample, and of course it's a compromised type of sampling which also decreases the validity of your study findings. So, but still it is considered very important and most widely used type of sampling as compared to probability because of the feasibility issues. First of all, you can use non-probability sampling when there is no sampling frame. You can use the non-probability sampling when there are limited time or limited money or limited people available to conduct the research. And you can also use when randomization is not possible. Again, randomization is many times not possible due to non-availability of the sampling frame. And then the technique can be used in initial study for the small scale study before we conduct the large scale studies with more complex designs. So these are the major issues for why we still prefer non-probability samplings in many settings. The first and most widely used type of probability sampling is convenient sampling. Sometimes it is also called convenience sampling because it is based on the convenience of the researcher. Samples are selected because they are easily accessible or convenient to the researcher. It is easiest, cheapest and fastest method of completing your data or sample, usually used in preliminary researches or initial researches. Sampling and selection bias are the major limitations. See, if you are the researcher, the people who are easy to accessible or who comes first in contact and meeting your criteria, you will just include them in your study. That's why it is a widely used and widely accepted approach, makes life simple and complete research on a faster pace, but of course the inherent limitations are there. The second type is purposive sampling. It is also known as judgmental sampling. In this, the sample is selected in a deliberative and non-random fashion to achieve a certain goal. Like the researcher purposefully decide who is the right person to provide the required information. The researcher selects the sample based on this judgment that who should be in the study. For example, a researcher may decide to draw the entire sample from one representative city using a predefined criteria. So the researcher is the one person who decides who is the right person to take the information. Again, sampling error and exclusion bias are the major limitations of this. This is the figure showing you the purposive sampling. The researcher thinks that the person with certain characteristics depicted in red color are the right persons, so he purposefully select them with certain characteristics and do not select any other person. Quota sampling is again one of the common example. Quota, the word shows the researcher wants to give a certain allocation to various groups or people with various characteristics. For example, if you want to conduct a study in which you want to include the rich and the poor and the richest in your study, so you would like to include all kind of people in your sample. You can give the equal proportion to all the people, like you can take almost 33%, 33 point something for everyone to make 100 100% of sample. But you can just decide that you will take more poor people, like 50% of your sample maybe on poor people, based on poor people, while 25% from the rich and the richest, and similarly 25 from richest. So it can be proportionate or disproportionate, or proportionate in a manner like that you can just take the sample, like I said, 50% is poor because 50% in real is poor in your community, or 25% riches or rich. So it depends on the real proportion in the community, that is proportionate. And if it is some quota allocated or decided by the researcher himself out of his own interest, so then it's non-proportionate quota sampling. But in quota, the main purpose is to compare the various groups for certain characteristics, and the people included one quota are of same characteristics. The quota may be of male and female quota. It can be the quota between the various ethnicities, quota of the races, education-wise quota, or the socioeconomic status rigid quota. It allows the researcher to observe relationship between subgroups or the different groups in quota. May or may not be totally representative of the population. It is totally representative of the population when you take proportionate sample. But when you take disproportionate quotas, you allocate your own quotas for each group in the study, then or subgroup in the study, then it may not be representative of the total population, or it may overrepresent the traits if the disproportionate sample is taken. So this figure is showing you the quota, and if you see there are two kinds of quota, male and female, 50-50%. It is the quota disproportionate because in your sample you see the male and female are equal. Sorry, in this the population both are equal, so this is the proportion. So the last but not the least is the snowball sampling. Is a particular kind of sampling used in specific scenarios, are always also known as networking sampling. It's a preferred when the desired or sample characteristic is rare, or you are doing research about the specific or especially the taboo or hard to reach population groups, such as the sex workers, commercial sex workers, transgenders, drug dealers, or certain criminals, because these are not the people you can easily reach. Nobody will tell you easily that they are sex workers. So it's hard to identify and find a list of those things which are still considered taboo in the society. So likewise, no criminal or drug dealers or smugglers which should give you their list of names, or you cannot find it somewhere registered and as a profession or occupation. So it is hard to identify if you want to complete a sample of 100 drug dealers as per objectives of your study. So what you do, you can just identify the one very first participant from your research, a commercial sex worker or a drug dealer, or then you can ask them to the persons with related profession or background. And of course, the people related to one kind of profession or activity know the other people doing the same thing in their lives. So they will connect you to their friends or their circle, and likewise from the second one you can ask for a third contact, and third to fourth, and likewise you complete your sample. So it's just a networking sample, the one people connect to the other or many. So this is how we do snowball sampling. And while this technique can be dramatically lower search cost, it comes at the expense of introducing bias, because the technique itself reduces the likelihood that the sample will include a good cross-section from the population. For example, a commercial sex worker working in DHA Karachi may not be able to introduce the other sex worker working in other parts of the population, but she may connect you to the other sex workers working in her own area only. So this sampling this is snowball sampling, and if you see the one person in the red and the person in the green connect you to the other people, while they were also connected by the other person introduced by the person in the blue. The blue is your first participant which connected to the blue and the green, and then they give you further participants from their contacts. So this is all about the networking sampling. Thank you very much.